Penn State had a shot to get 11 wins in 2023. While they did lose to the two powerhouses in the Big Ten, they did have an opportunity to end their season with a victory against an SEC contender. And that did happen. So now the question turns to what does need to happen in State College for a successful run in 2024? Let's talk about it. If you are new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, plus bowl championships, national championship news, transfer portal, coaching searches, and a bunch of other nonsense surrounding our favorite sport, make sure that you smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on what the future entails for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions. Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, college football aficionado fans, and Penn State people everywhere about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 YouTube show in college football. So make sure you also follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. That way, conversations around our favorite sport never have to stop. Ole Miss wins. They win pretty emphatically. 38-25 was the final score, and if you really take away the last 8 points on the touchdown, it was worse. It really should have been 38-17, but we're not going to get into details with that. We are, though, going to talk about Penn State. Penn State feels like, at this point, the safe team of the Big Ten. And by safe, you're probably saying to yourself, what are you getting at? Well, I don't know what to expect every year from Wisconsin. I don't know what to expect every year from Northwestern. If it's an even year, I'm supposed to believe the Wildcats are going to get to bowl eligibility. And if it's an odd year, things are going to go south fast. Go back and look at 2000 or switch that, strike that, reverse it. Even year, good, all that, whatever. The same thing goes for a team like Nebraska. Same thing goes for a team like Iowa. I have no idea what their offense is going to be. I don't know what I'm going to get out of a team like Rutgers. I know what I'm getting every single year out of Penn State. They're going to be 10-2. They're going to finish top 40 in offense and defensive metrics. They're going to be a team that beats up on lower competition, and they're just not going to be able to hold a flame against the big boys. And case in point, that was on display today. That's the only way to put it. And I know that you had the opt-outs with no Chop Robinson, no Olu Fashanu, no Kalen King, no Johnny Dixon, multiple other players missing time as well. I get it. And so I'm not going to put an emphasis on what this means for the future of Penn State, because it can be corrected. But there are some things that need attention. And one of the biggest is probably what happens with James Franklin. I'm a believer in James Franklin. I think that he is a phenomenal coach. He is a guy that I can trust will lead my team to 9+ wins. I have no doubt about that. And at this point, nobody should second guess what he can do. But it's the big games. It's the monumental ones. It's the ones that stand out. And last season, you wonder to yourself, do they get to 11 wins if Cam Rising doesn't tear his ACL in the Rose Bowl? Do they find a way to end the season off and give Sean Clifford his swan song? Do they end up winning against another top 10 team? Because we know right now the struggles are occurring when they play Ohio State. We know right now the struggles are occurring when they play Michigan. And outside of a glaring injury, the struggles occur when they play top 10 teams. That's kind of the bottom line. And so you wonder, what is the end goal for Penn State? Is it simply making the college football playoff? Because the team that took the field today, if you were to keep Olu Fashanu and Chop Robinson and Kalen King, and yes, I think all three of them would have played in a 12-team playoff, the score may have been a little bit closer, and maybe Ole Miss still walks away victorious. But I'll tell you this much, a couple of those big-time throws that you're seeing at Trey Harris, they don't happen. Couple of the sacks that Drew Allard takes that look like they're going to be fumbles, they don't happen. Couple of the big-time plays that Jackson Dart's able to connect on third down to Caden Priestcorn or Trey Harris or Dayton Wade, they don't happen because Chop Robinson gets in the backfield and brings him down ahead of time. Those are just things that I know. But that's not the case. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the game. What I'm looking at is the future. What does Penn State need to do? Well, they already got started by firing Mike Urich, and they brought in my opinion, a very good up-and-coming name in the industry in Andy Kolenicki. Anybody who watched Kansas's offense the last 2 years knows Kolenicki will get quality play from his quarterbacks. He turned Jalen Daniels into a household name, and honestly, in my opinion, maybe a dark horse for the Heisman at the start of the year. He turned Jason Bean into a quarterback that can lead a team to a 9-4 record, and he also knows how to develop running backs because Devin Neal has been phenomenal. So you're trending upward there, but it doesn't stop. You need wide receiver help. I get it. You had a very good day from Tyler Warren. He's going to come back next year, probably 6'6" tight end. You got to look at this wide receiver room. It just has been barren all year. There's a reason why we talk about Drew Aller, and we have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. Keandre Lambert-Smith finished with 673 yards during the regular season. Dante Cephas was your number 2 receiver with 22 catches. The good news is that you're employed to get Julian Fleming. And at this point, I think that when you look at the numbers that were on stage today, where a tight end was leading your team in receiving yards, and then Nick Singleton, of all people, was number 2 with 86, you're going to have to get a wide receiver. And Julian Fleming is one of those kids that you kind of drop your jaw and go, if I can hone that in and week out, I stand a shot. Like, that's your Marvin Harrison Jr. And I bring this up all the time because I think that honestly, Penn State played pretty well against Ohio State. They just were missing that element on the outside. Well, the Ohio State Buckeyes had Marvin Harrison Jr. You didn't. This is your Marvin Harrison Jr. going into next season. And just because you added him doesn't mean you have to stop. Just because you went and you added in Dante Cephas last year from Kent State, it didn't mean you have to go ahead and not target another name. Getting as many pass catchers as possible to fortify your offense is going to be a godsend. On top of that, you also probably need to make sure that whatever you do with defensive coordinator and whatever you do with the front, you still have to have that physicality. What was the key element about a guy like Brent Pry? And you watched it during his bowl game where they came out and they just literally dismantled everybody. I mean, literally, they put up nothing. It was incredible of what you saw from Virginia Tech. Physicality in the trenches. What did you see from Manny Diaz's defenses this past year? Tackles for losses, ability to make quarterbacks feel the pressure and throw into double coverage, and most importantly, sacks. You saw all of it. Pressure up front. Because of a place like State College is always going to land itself a 5-star cornerback or a very solid linebacker. There's a reason why we call it LBU. But you got to have trench play. And if you win in the trenches, which has been an area of strength for years for the Nittany Lions, if you win there, you're in a good spot. But now that you're bringing in a new defensive coordinator and a new offensive coordinator, this is an offseason where you kind of, if you're James Franklin, have to take a step back. You don't want to be right on top of everybody. You have to see the full picture. Because Saturday's game, I thought for the most part, it was fine until it wasn't. Third down, big time problem. You have a number 1 wide receiver that can change the course of a game. Guess what? That's not going to be a problem. Winning on shorts. Winning in the red zone. That was a problem. Well, you don't want to have that next season. So got to build up your offensive line. Maybe get a wide receiver in the slot to where if a guy like Warren isn't open, you do have another name. If the run game is being obsolete, you're able to trust your receiving core. Like, these are little things that really hinder the success and have done so for years at Penn State. Just minor tweaks. But the minor tweaks eventually are going to become major flaws. And so Penn State at this point has to kind of come to a culmination. What is the end goal for us? Is it to win national championships? Okay, well, what's holding us back with James Franklin to get to that point? Is it making the college football playoff? Okay, well, what's holding us back with James Franklin to get to that point? Is it winning multiple playoff games? Is it winning a conference title? Well, what's holding us back? Because at some point, you start running out of excuses. This past year, it was wide receivers, and it was the inability to win on third down, and a young quarterback getting implemented with an offensive coordinator who was fired after the after the Michigan game. So that's one way to look at it. But soon, we're going to cross that threshold of where it's no longer quarterback, running back, or defensive line, or linebacker, or cornerback, or bad play in coverage, or the inability to win on third down. It's all going to flow back to James Franklin. I'm a big believer in James Franklin. I believe that he can get this team to a national title. I believe that he can get better play out of his quarterbacks. But there's not many specimens like Drew Aller walking through the door and not being successful. There's not many wide receivers that are supposed to be coming to State College and have lackluster production. And there's not many teams that have a defensive and offensive line built like the Nittany Lions that are okay with going 10-3. I talk about a guy like Caleb Williams never going to a college football playoff. You could say the same thing about a team like Chop Robinson off the edge or an Olu Fashanu at left tackle. Just change the position, the same outcome. Talent like that doesn't always come through your university, and you have to capitalize when you have it. So for James Franklin, we talk about what's going to happen in Columbus this offseason, where it feels like a must-win year for Ryan Day. You might be feeling the same type of pressure for James Franklin, because whether or not Ole Miss is a good team, regardless of how many opt-outs and coaches left the program, this was a game that you were supposed to hold your own. And outside of really a fourth quarter comeback where second stringers were starting to work their way in, it was one-sided after halftime. And I'm going to say right now, if you don't make these changes, it's going to be one-sided after halftime against similar teams that have this type of pedigree moving forward. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.